everyone. Welcome back. We're diving deep into self-compassion today.
Oh, yeah. Going to be a good one.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at Kristin Neff's book, Self-Compassion, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself. For a long time, I thought the only way to really achieve anything, any goals I had, was to be super hard on myself.
Yeah, I think a lot of us think that way.
Yeah, if I wasn't always pushing and criticizing myself, I just figured I'd get complacent, lazy maybe.
Totally.
But this book, it kind of turns that idea on its head, you know? It suggests a whole different way of approaching personal growth. And it doesn't involve, like, beating yourself up to get stuff done.
Yeah, what I find so interesting is how she really kind of challenges the whole, like, traditional idea of self-esteem. That thing we're all, like, supposed to be striving for.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta feel above average all the time. It's almost like our whole society is obsessed with it.
Yeah.
But she really makes a case for self-compassion being a way healthier, way more sustainable path to well-being.
It's almost like that self-esteem model. It's like we're set up to fail from the start, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
There's always going to be someone out there with a better life, a fancier job, more likes on their whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But how can anyone actually measure up when you're always comparing yourself like that?
And that's exactly the problem.
Yeah.
It's that constant pressure, to prove your worth, to be better, that can really do a number on you, lead to insecurity, anxiety, even depression.
Oh, for sure.
You end up with this really, really fragile sense of self-worth that's totally dependent on what other people think.
Totally dependent on external validation.
Totally.
So if always striving for this higher and higher self-esteem, if that's basically like a recipe for disappointment, what does Neff offer as an alternative?
Well, she really puts forward self-compassion as like the antidote to this whole self-esteem trap. Think about it this way. If you had a close friend who was going through a rough time, you wouldn't just like berate them for their mistakes, would you?
No.
You'd offer them understanding, support,
Right.
maybe even a bit of humor to lighten the mood.
Yeah.
Self-compassion is basically like extending that same kindness and understanding to yourself.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of intrigued, but to be honest, still a little skeptical.
That's fair.
Part of me still thinks, isn't at least a little self-criticism necessary? Don't we need that push to actually improve?
It's a super common misconception that self-compassion equals like being lazy or letting yourself off the hook.
Right.
But Neff's research actually shows the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, people who are more self-compassionate, they're actually more likely to achieve their goals because they're not so paralyzed by like the fear of failure.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that. Okay, so how does this self-compassion thing actually work? Does Neff lay out like a step-by-step guide or something?
She breaks it down into 3 core components.
Okay.
Self-kindness, mindfulness, and common humanity.
Gotcha.
So self-kindness is basically treating yourself with the same care and understanding that you would offer to a friend. So instead of that harsh self-criticism, you acknowledge your mistakes and your imperfections with warmth and acceptance.
So what does that sound like in practice? Could you maybe give us an example?
Sure. So let's say you're working on a really challenging project and you make a mistake.
Happens all the time.
Right. So instead of immediately thinking, "Ugh, I'm so stupid, I'll never get this right," which I think is a common reaction.
Oh, for sure.
A self-compassionate response might be more like, okay, I messed up, it happens. What can I learn from this? How can I approach it differently next time?
Yeah, I see the difference.
Right.
It's about being supportive, not destructive, even when you face those setbacks.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the second element, mindfulness, that's about being present with your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Okay.
It's like noticing that inner critic, the one?
Oh, yeah.
Without getting totally swept away by its negativity.
Yeah.
You acknowledge your emotions, but you don't let them define you.
Okay. That sounds helpful, but also really hard.
It can be, yeah.
Especially when those negative thoughts are just like screaming at you.
Yeah.
Any tips on how to actually do that?
One really simple but powerful practice is to just bring your attention to your breath. Just notice the sensation of each inhale and each exhale.
Okay.
This can really help ground you in the present moment, and it creates a little space between you and all those racing thoughts.
It's like hitting the pause button on the inner critic.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a few seconds.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. And then the final element is common humanity, which is all about recognizing that you are not alone in your struggles.
Right.
Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone experiences setbacks. Everyone feels inadequate sometimes. It's part of the shared human experience.
That part really resonates with me because, it's so easy to fall into that trap of thinking,
Yeah.
why am I the only one who can't get it together?
Oh, yeah.
Especially nowadays with social media, everyone's always showcasing their seemingly perfect lives.
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the comparison game.
Yeah.
But that's where self-compassion comes in.
Okay.
It helps you break free from that feeling of isolation and connect with a sense of shared humanity.
Yeah.
When you recognize that imperfection is like universal,
Right.
it takes the pressure off and makes those struggles feel less overwhelming.
So this all sounds great in theory, but are there actual, proven benefits?
Yeah.
Does Neff's book offer any evidence that self-compassion actually makes a real difference in people's lives?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She cites a ton of studies showing the positive impact of self-compassion on well-being.
Okay.
For example, there was one study that found that people who practice self-compassion were 50% more likely to bounce back from setbacks.
Wow, 50%, that's huge.
Right. And they maintained a more positive mood, even in really challenging situations.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah. And there's also evidence that self-compassion can lead to healthier relationships, increased motivation, even better physical health.
I gotta say, this has been really eye-opening.
Yeah.
I came into this deep dive a little skeptical, but honestly, I'm really starting to see how powerful this approach could be.
That's great to hear.
Before we wrap up,
Sure.
any final takeaways for our listeners who want to, start incorporating more self-compassion into their own lives?
I think the key is to start small.
Okay.
Just notice when that inner critic pops up.
Right.
And try to gently reframe those negative thoughts with kinder, more supportive language. Practice bringing your attention to your breath throughout the day,
Yeah.
Just little moments here and there to cultivate that mindfulness.
Right.
And just remember,
Yeah.
you are not alone in your struggles. We all go through it.
This deep dive has definitely given me a new perspective on, how to approach my own personal growth and stuff.
Glad to hear it.
If I could treat myself with even half the compassion I offer to my friends, I think I'd be in a much better place.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's something to think about.
It is. And as you continue to, explore this concept, I really encourage you to ask yourself, what would actually change in your life if you consistently offered yourself that same level of kindness and understanding that you offer to others?
That's a great question for everyone to consider.
It is.
And for those who want to dive deeper,
I
highly recommend checking out Kristin Neff's book. It's packed with, the research, insights, and practical exercises.
Yeah, it's a great resource.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into self-compassion.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
See you next time.